40. And so Nathan, okay, so back to your approach, and I know that you have some like research out there done. And so how can we be better than the person we were yesterday?
The one thing is we have to start getting kind of a little bit analytical about what we're doing. So I'm going to give you a kind of a framework and then give you some questions that we can actually do that.
Okay.
So what I started to realise is, as I was going through my work, I'm doing these wonderful jobs. I'm getting in leadership positions. I'm impacting people around me. I'm changing these people at a kind of a micro level in my direct community. But there was still this level of unhappiness in me. Mm-hmm. And what I then broke it down into is there's 4 stages of work that I found in my own psychology. The first one is the work that we're taught to do, and this comes from a schooling environment. And the school system, it's a post-industrial revolution model. It's an outdated factory model to create factory workers. As human beings, we're now far more intelligent. We're more intelligent-based. We're working a lot more with our minds and problem-solving. We're not standing in the majority in these spaces, constantly churning out widgets. This is going to be something that artificial intelligence is going to take over.
We're all waiting for it. Except all the movies got it wrong. It's not like, we've far surpassed Demolition Man and all of the other things, Terminator. It's coming up. I give it in like 3,000 and something.
Yeah, but it's starting to happen. But we know we're starting to use our brains more. But because there is this expectation on us, we go. School teaches us 3 things in the majority: turn up on time, do as you're told, and live up to someone else's expectation. Mm-hmm. As a human being, you're not designed to do any of those things. You're designed to be outdoors. That's why they are all in counseling. Absolutely.
I take the insurance for the Pinellas County schools, and I have more teachers on my caseload than I. That's just a saying. They have it hard. You're right.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But the schooling system is changing. This is why we've got homeschooling. This is why we've got forest schools in the UK. This is why we've got Steiner schools and free schooling. The dynamic is changing quite drastically. But the problem is, the human being and the psychology is not designed to be compartmentalised into that space. Young children are designed to run around and have fun and enjoy being children, and they learn through play.
Yeah, now everyone wants to tag them as ADHD or behavioral because it's boring to sit in school.
Yeah, absolutely this. And, you look at kind of the Scandinavian schools, they don't start hard schooling, until kind of 9-10 years old. And they're even thinking about changing that dynamic as well. And they have some of the greatest scholastic results coming out. So actually, there's something to be said for this. What it does, though, in the majority is it's preparing you for a work environment. It's been doing that for 100 years. When, though, you start to realise and get this sensation, you kind of, hold on, there's something else I'm designed to be doing here. It then becomes the work that you're told to do. What I mean by this is, in short, no one likes being told what to do. And that's when the frustration starts to come up, the agitation. People can't, you're trying to have conversations with people, but they can't see what you can see. You can't see what they can see. Then the conversations never join up and your relationships start to break down. What starts to happen, though, this is kind of the arena where, for me, workplace depression starts to kick in because we're not able to express ourselves fully. Mm-hmm. But we feel obligated to do a job. We feel like we have to do this to put food on the table, to put a roof over our heads and clothes on our backs. And I think from a male point of view, there is a driver for men to provide. We are, it's been hardwired into our DNA for hundreds of thousands of years. We are providers. So we feel we have to do this and we can't step out of that expected norm. And that pressure really squeezes us. And that's when you see things in the office, you see Sunday night blues and Monday morning blues. That's why you
got a case of the Mondays, as office space would say. Yeah. A lot of people hate Sunday because they know it starts the next. It's not even a day off for some people. They are just dreading what's the next day and the start of the week.
And that's a serious flag. Statistically, you look at the percentage, and I haven't got it in front of me, the percentage of heart attacks that happen at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning.
Wow.
And it's higher at that point. That's a pretty drastic way to get out of a job you don't like.
Or it's that means that they stayed way too long and without help or without therapy, without counseling, and just kept on. There's some people that need direction, though, and they like to be told what to do or do, at least because, I taught college, Psychology 101, right? And it was freshman psych. Over here, that would be out of high school, first year of university.
Yep.
Okay. So, and what was required as a paper, and sometime I had done it differently. Just a couple of semesters, I did it for 4 years. But when I would sign a paper and say, pick any topic in the textbook that you want, people had a very hard time deciding what to write about. And when I gave specific topics and had them pick it out of a hat or assigned them, they didn't like it. It wasn't something they were passionate about writing about, but nobody complained and nobody had trouble figuring it out. It's sometimes it's funny that when you get too much freedom into somebody being creative, sometimes people can handle it and sometimes people need that guidance.
Absolutely. And that comes into this whole purpose piece. If you aren't clear what it is, and most people aren't taught, A, to how to ask those questions, or B, how to receive those questions. Mm-hmm. You talk about the teachers, etc. They go in to teach. They go and take a subject and they share a certain amount of information or enthusiasm or whatever it is. But they're telling. They're not sharing or questioning. Mm-hmm. And actually, when we start to look at some of the open questions that we ask as coaches, as therapists, as mentors or whatever, we can start to draw that information out of people. If, though, we can start to do that early on and we're encouraging people by using open questions, and looking for them to investigate who they are as an internal dialogue for that person, they will then start to make those choices. But people don't feel like they've got the ability to make choices because it comes back to that work that they're being taught to do, that conformity and that restriction. If I'm not told, if someone doesn't tell me what to do, I don't know what to do. But then when hold on, that doesn't feel right, then it becomes the work you're told to do, and that's when the frustration starts to kick in. And for me, this is where the mental health in the workplace. Yeah. And that's when the mental health in the workplace that starts to break down. And you look at, again, the statistics. In the UK, 12-month period, 15.4 million workdays were lost due to workplace stress, anxiety, and depression.
How many?
15.4 million.
Yeah, no, and so many guests have come on and said when they came to their employer, there was ending the stigma is big. And it's because if they're going through some family crisis, depression, mental health, anxiety, being open with your supervisor, if you're working for a company, they're as far as I know in America, they're mandated to understand you don't get fired from that. That's discrimination. But not only that, but most of them will understand and offer you time off or offer you time to go take care of that. And the loyalty, the longevity of employment, the turnaround decreases, and people become more dedicated to their job because they feel understood. They feel like they're taken care of or considered and cared about.
Absolutely. And like you say, they are ending the stigma. It's okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. For me, and the circumstances, I'm very black and white with my mental health, and I understand far more clearly the challenges that I had then. It's just not okay to not ask for help.
Right.
It's not okay to sit in that.
And most places have mental health services. And I've said this on the show before with other guests, but it's pretty funny because you're in there interviewing for a job, and they're like, we've got 401k, mental vision plans, dental plans, life insurance plans, but they very rarely say and mental health plans and coverage. Yep. And it's only because they don't want to offend them or whatever. But I don't know if you look at it that way and someone's like, Tiffany, we have dental plans for you. I'm like, well, what's wrong with my teeth? It's not like the mental health is just going to say the same thing. And vision, why do I look like I'm going blind? Something going wrong with me. It's just people with the stigma are more cautious about how they're perceiving it, maybe take it more personally, or people are afraid to say, if it ever gets hard on you, we have, coverage for you to take a mental health day or to deal with family issues or crises. It's just, and then, but having those days would help so many of them because there's things that come up, court dates or jury duty or, I don't know, stressful days that people come to work useless. They're I don't know. When I have something on my mind, it's really hard for me to concentrate on other stuff until I clear it up. I don't know about you guys, but
absolutely. That's how I am. The thing is, you go to a job, and more often than not, your boss, your manager, or leader, you got a problem, leave them at the door. It doesn't work like that. We're human beings, it's emotion. We're designed to be emotional. You don't get to walk up to your office door, leave the bags there and get on with a full day of work and do it to the best of your ability. No, right. Because you're worrying about the bills. You're worrying about what's happening with your family. You're worrying about X, Y, and Z, and that conformity is also inside of work. You're worrying about your next pay review. You're worrying
right.
about your end of year review. Am I meeting someone else's standard? Yes. Someone else's grade in order to get bonus, so I can make the bills meet at the end of the month.
Yeah, and that's a pressure. And not all supervisors are, people that are ahead of us. However, people call it executive manager, supervisor. Not everyone is bad people, but not everyone understands, and calling up with excuses rather than being transparent about the truth actually gets people in more trouble.
Yeah.
And I want to welcome callers to call in. You're welcome to join us. 866-826-1340. 866-826-1340. So, Nathan, what are some coping skills so we can deal with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that pressure inside of the work, and that's the reason why I shared those two dynamics at the front end, is because that work that we're taught to do, that breeds the conformity. And for me, that's where the workplace anxiety comes from. Am I meeting someone else's standard? That work that we're told to do escalates the frustration, and it starts to go inwardly, and it starts to turn into depression. And that's where we see the coping mechanisms of alcohol, drug, extracurricular activities and extramarital affairs in the office, because we're doing things to cope with the surroundings that we're not happy with.
Right.
By looking for dopamine hits to get us through the day. We drink too much coffee. We call Wednesday hump day because it's all downhill to the weekend. And the last, and the last hour on the Friday's happy hour, because then you can go and get drunk with all your friends and go home and complain about your job. And then when you get back to your job, you go and complain about your home life.
Most people go after work every day if they're not happy anyway. They don't wait until Friday. The people happy with their job that wait till Friday.
There's different levels of pressure when the pressure valve gets released and we go and vent all that frustration.
Right.
So for me, that strategy is how we then move out of the work that we're told to do. And that's kind of what started to happen to me about 6 years ago. So I lived in this state for a very long time because the only question my dad ever knew to ask me was, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to be?
Pause right there. We have a caller. Yeah. Okay, Nathan.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with your life? We're going to get right back to that. But we have a caller. Yeah. Welcome to Moments of Clarity. Hello.
Tiffany.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good. Who are we speaking with?
Joe Potosi.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah. You said something I want to kind of hit on a little bit.
Okay.
When you talked about employers offer services and they don't hold it against you if you have a mental health, like a nervous breakdown or something of that nature, right?
Right.
So I take issue with that because it's flawed. And what I mean by that is, some years ago, my very good friend Sean lost his infant son in a fire, right? House fire. And he literally had a nervous breakdown. He ended up on the mental health ward for a long time.
Who would blame him?
And, right. I mean, his son was my son's age, so it was really hard for me to. Anyway, what happened was, because of the depression and I don't know all the diagnoses he was given, he was never the same. And when he eventually came back to work, although he still had a job to come back to, he was treated inferior to everybody else. And I balked at that several times. I went to the manager and said, they were the ones doing it. And they just kind of brushed everything under the rug. But he's still my friend to this day, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword. At least in this scenario, in this case that I'm aware of, there's many more. And your heart breaks to those people. Mm-hmm. But I think, personally, if you know someone that's going through a difficult time, or going through a divorce, lost a child, come down with a terrible disease, we need to, be with that person and support them however we can, no matter what it looks like or what people say. Mm-hmm. Because the reason I say that, I always try to treat people the way I like to be treated. And life isn't a bed of roses. And if I'm going through a difficult time, and someone comes alongside me and gives me an encouraging word or a source of support of somehow, something they say or something they do, it uplifts my spirit, not just for that day, but for the whole week, possibly. I just think that we as a community, I don't know about across the pond, but in America,
it's all the same with mental health.
We're all so busy. Like if you go